Hey, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, May the 12th. So I decided to do a major update and just overhaul of my entire workflow and setup of OBS. Getting very complicated, particularly basically doing the digital equivalent of rewiring all of the audio. So at the moment, there is like the Chrome browser itself is configured to plug into a separate driver that pretends like it is a sound input and output. And then I have a video, what is it? Banana, voice meter banana. That is being used as the default setup for each of my for all other games, and that is now potentially going to save me, by doing it that way, a hassle. And whenever I start a new game of having to adjust the audio down to about 10%, I can just have everything at 10% while still having my Blue Yeti microphone and the headphones plugged into my Blue Yeti microphone separate as its own little setup for monitoring. So practically what that allows me to do, theoretically, and this should work, is now if any audio is playing on Chrome and I push a video, I can actually hear it. Maybe I can make some more commentary on it. Honestly, it probably will get very distracting very fast, and I probably won't choose to play audio on a lot of videos, or almost all videos. And in that whole process, I just kind of rebuilt everything. I put all of my audio inputs as a subfolder in OBS. One of the things that allowed me to do was to install a beep, and unfortunately the beep is not a 7-second dump or anything, so it's not like a button where I could press it and then the video would be buffered or delayed by 7 seconds and then it would jump to the real time. Honestly, even if you were going to do a 7-second dump, if that was something that was programmed into OBS, it's been requested, but it probably would take a decent amount of RAM, frankly, because you're just going to have this RAM buffer of audio and video that would always be running. And there is a post-processed delayed buffer that happens, and that has been built in to stop stream sniping for OBS, but it doesn't really address the factor of what you would really need to do to have a full delay. So using the overly complicated multiple paths, I am now monitoring the audio, and what is heard by the people on the video in the stream is its own separate thing. So I can do it for comedic effect, and I'll just do it here. Pretend like I'm cussing here. So yeah, it is super complicated to set that up. It involves having a beep sound effect that's looping and playing at all times, and then having that beep file, that media source, muted with a push to talk key also being the exact same key as push to mute on the desktop audio and the microphone audio. It would make some sense if I knew I was about to cuss, or if there was somebody else on my on the microphone. OBS does allow for 4 microphones, so theoretically you could mute any one or all of the microphones, or any combination in between that way, and play the beep. but it really is just for comedic effect. You could also just mute it. Unlike a real radio station where you could do a 7-second dump and it would go back in time, if somebody can slip out the F part of a 4-letter word, that F part in this would still play. So you would have to be sitting on the button just ready to press it just the second you hear something, and it doesn't actually have a practical use. It only has comedic effect use. I imagine a lot of radio stations do dump things on the 7-second delay and it just goes to silence, or just goes to a commercial, and inherently you would have to go to commercial to build up that 7-second delay again. Otherwise, potentially, if you push the button enough, you'll run out of buffer and delay, unless the dedicated, highly expensive radio devices have some way that speeds up the playback or slows down the playback after that to regain that 7 seconds. And even if that did happen, then there still really wouldn't be a solution. Theoretically, I could easily set the blur feature to also be on the same key or a different key, so it could go to like a full screen blur too. But yeah, that was more experiment than anything else, just to see if I could pull it off. And so I've been, instead of doing the work I should have been doing, playing Indiana Jones and Fate of Atlantis, which I did make a couple episodes of that, I've been just messing around with overhauling OBS, and I think I'm about as good as I can do it. There is a render delay function, but you can't do more than half a second before you just crash your CPU, frankly. That it's set to only do half a second, 500 milliseconds on render delay, and while you can do a filter on top of a filter and just add 14 half-second render delays to get to 7 seconds, it's so incredibly CPU intensive. Even my relatively brand new and super powerful PC could not handle it. That was definitely one of the things of the overhauls that I was doing, was just trying to eliminate things that haven't been used in a very long time, eliminate filters that may be disabled but still sitting around, and just move forward. But yeah, the audio shouldn't sound any different. I kind of tested that, but if it does sound any different, apologies. Let me know if it sounds horribly different. It shouldn't. Video game news wise, Cygames changed their logo ever so slightly to make their text bigger. And that's not really important announcement, but whatever. I did make a few episodes of Fate of Atlantis earlier today, and I'm still kind of all over the place, just struggling to try and find any kind of sleep schedule, or just sleep in general. It's like, it's kind of expanded to that where I'm struggling to even fall asleep. I also kind of played some things off screen, but kind of not a lot. Forestcraft and Dreadcraft. I think I did like a new arena run, and that was it. So yeah, there was some other things I worked on that I wanted to highlight though, and so we can just get on that, talk about that too. Like, one of the things is the scroll ticker to have stock markets stuff. Apparently the program desktop ticker that I have used to have that, but there was a service that was providing that information that became defunct, and seemingly there has just been no service whatsoever on top of that that seems to easily and accurately provide up to the minute stock market information. I imagine there probably is a paid service, some kind of proprietary thing that I would not want to actually put any money into to get the stock prices. But there isn't just like an RSS feed of video game stock prices or anything like that, which, yeah, that sucks. So I'm just gonna stick with the double feeds. And I suppose if I ever got tired of like Gamma Sutra's RSS feed in particular, I could drop it, and then I could have one that was highlighting Gametsu feeds posts and one that was highlighting TechRaptor feed posts. But honestly, it kind of doesn't matter either way because neither RSS feeds are particularly long. So yeah, I wanted to show this. So previously, when I moved things off, I have the desktop tickers disabled, and it was just black at the top that the browser page ended. What I have done is quite ingeniously made it so it duplicates this, but only duplicates 1 pixel. Or it should be 1 pixel. Maybe I'm seeing a bit of a line that I shouldn't be seeing. So I might still need to do a slight adjustment. And then it stretches that 1 pixel, whatever color it is, vertically up this direction. So when you start to scroll down this way, you can see it very clearly. And it's not a very good solution if the desktop ticker is ever just not working. But it is a almost completely unrecognizable concept, or at least it's a decent close background concept. Same is true here. There isn't a big gray amount of gray. It's just taking the gray that's there and copying it. And while that's not any kind of like deep technology AI background generation that something like Adobe Photoshop could do, that makes a very good image for a background if something's going to be in front of it. Now, do you really need that? It just depends on if there's any bleed through or not. Here we have, once again, there isn't a ton of white at the top. It's simply the white pixel getting copied up there. And it works just shockingly well. Here's a good one to experiment with. Here you have clouds that are fairly different all the way at the top, so there's no border. And so this one works about as terrible as it possibly could work. Here I was looking at these new mist collectible button sets. So we'll talk about that. Let's go ahead and liquefy the cards. So yeah, that was another thing that I set up. But unfortunately, there are several projects I did start and worked on and then eventually had to give up on, and 2 of those were definitely the idea. So this is how it normally looks. I was trying to stretch out the desktop ticker at this point. See, I've got it a little wrong. Yep, I've got it in the I moved things around and didn't move this quite where it needs to be. So I'll have to work on that later. I won't do it on screen and distract myself like Monday. But yeah, what I wanted to do is get the desktop tickers at the top to stretch out to as wide to 2 or 3 times wider than a 1080p resolution, and that way I could then squish it back and try and get some of the jankiness out of it. Some of this jankiness may very well be because of the dots per inch change that occurs on each of my monitors, and frankly I should disable that in general, but then the monitors would definitely need to be closer to me for me to see them. But yeah, there's just a level there of let's see if we can actually do this. I said I wasn't going to do this, and now I'm going to do it. We need the display capture, and then Control E, and then I don't think I'm doing this right. Nope. I am not. Am I doing the right thing? I don't think I am. Oh, I see what I need to do. Move that up that way. Then edit that down. That way. That way. No, I don't think I quite got that right either. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to mess with this, and then I immediately messed with it. So, color me a liar. Will this work well enough? Yeah. I think that will work fine, so let's just leave it with that, and let's get back to playing Shadowverse. Yeah, clearly I'm distracted. Clearly I'm not super focused on Shadowverse. But yeah, I also don't think for a second I could turn my YouTube channel into anything else. I wouldn't want to change it to anything else, and becoming like a OBS tips and tricks channel probably would only work for about a month before I ran out of tips and tricks, and I would have to just constantly be stealing content from other people or copying other content. Like, plus I probably would get very bored of that very fast. Let's see. Well, unlimited default fairy deck. Let's try that. Forcecraft deck. Since when I tried my own Forcecraft deck on unlimited, it failed miserably. Like, obviously I need to, next time there's an unlimited tournament with previous victories, we need to copy some of those decks and find some meta deck winning experiences.
Time for me to prove myself.
So we have some slight good news and slight bad news in that the What's on Steam Twitter feed in general has not worked at all since Monday. So while I could go and look at what's new on Steam and open a bunch of like poorly sorted, poorly filtered things, it would be a bit of a hassle. Instead, I think what we'll do is we'll go through the news today, perhaps have a slightly shorter experience, and then do some wishlist cleanup. Now, Steam, what's on Steam's feed does not go down consistently enough to be able to like always do a follow list cleanup when it's down. But also, the follow list cleanup during live streams also gives me the perfect excuse as far to have a backup plan, whereas in previous times there really hasn't been a real backup plan. I would also say that the RSS desktop tickers, I have them one on top of each other on my third monitor, and they're a bit of a hassle because they're kind of covering up the X buttons of the OBS software and the chat, but they work well enough.
You just gotta listen.
So, yeah. I probably need to also adjust sizes here. We need to experiment on whether the average sized image here is big enough that I might be able to shrink the top image there down a little bit more, which I kind of don't want to shrink it because it's already fairly small and kind of pointless even at its current size. So, yeah.
Just don't. Help me, fairy.
God, you killed that. But yeah, there's room for adjustment here as we see this Gamma Sutra article. Microsoft wants feedback on a limited lottery to help sell Xbox Series X and S consoles. Which, yeah, that's an idea, certainly. It's definitely an idea.
Small things in life.
There was a thing also. There's a big white gap of text there. I was gonna see if I could get rid of it, but I can't. Chrome has this like hover thing where you hover over tabs and it pops up information. I've disabled that so that now it can't pop up a hover bubble that comes down on top of the screen. That probably has been happening for a very long time and I just haven't even noticed it. Theoretically, there's probably a decent amount of things I haven't really realized were happening.
Just don't.
Oops.
Big trouble now.
That was painful. Let's see this.
Let's play.
And then this.
Fate finds us all.
And then go ahead and evolve that, I suppose.
You're done for. All sully nature will pay. I'll
Go ahead
teach
and
you.
hit that.
Big trouble now.
And hit that. And then the turn. Yep. It's not a bad idea. In a funny way, I suppose shortages may very well lead to a point where we get to lotteries to buy things. Shortages at a certain point theoretically could drastically change the way consumerism and economics works. There definitely have been countries and times when you had to have authorization to be able to purchase or were granted things. Certainly communist and socialist countries that were poor had those problems. And so we may have to redefine how countries or societies are poor, not because they may not have financial on paper money, but because they don't have actual resources.
My arrows never miss. This'll do it.
But typically, a country will go to war to save and protect its supply of resources much earlier than it would admit, oh, we actually are poor because we don't have silicon, or because we don't have cobalt, or because we don't have oil.
You just gotta listen.
Of course, on the case of video game consoles, I doubt that's the herald of too much, and
Quickest silver.
but clearly we are poor in semiconductors and silicon, and just the ability to process and refine products from one stage to another. This, and then this,
Let's play.
then this.
Fate finds us all. May the forest be at peace. Let's play. This ends here.
If Microsoft did start a lottery system, it would not be too long before, I'm sure, Sony followed suit. And Newegg has been doing lottery systems to buy GPUs for several months, and I'm sure that that's where the concept is that the shortages of GPUs have become, it's become necessary to implement such of a system, or possibly financially viable. Like, I'm sure it's helping sales, not hurting them. But unlike Newegg, any place where you go to buy an Xbox is not likely to offer too many other things that are Microsoft-y.
Help me, fairies. Help me,
Let's
fairies.
see. see if we can kill this.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
And then this.
Gotta
And
reload.
play this.
Let's play.
And play this.
Let's play.
And then
Need to
do
look
this.
me up.
Then we could have used an evolve at that point. Alright, so let's cover video game news. Layers of Fear is coming to the Switch on May 20th, which this game has been out earlier. So yeah, I need to clearly start to zoom out some things. And if I'm going to zoom out some things, then I'm going to have to potentially try and center some things with a different plugin I have. Like, see, that's about as good as I can get it at 100%. Which that's a lot of empty space. So that's why I had it at 110%. And kind of more centered this way. But yeah, the embedded content here. And so this is an example of a video where at the moment I should be able to hear, I can totally hear the audio, and you should not be able to. And I have a little volume slider to let me hear it. Now, of course, the problem with this is as I'm hearing this game, I did not realize these types of scenes were in Layers of Fear 2 because I only heard people talk about it and then kind of forget about it. So yeah, theoretically that should not have been heard by you, but also then I have to kind of wait for it to go quiet again before I can really hear Shadowverse. So there's definitely some dangers in that, and some weirdness in that, certainly. Or that can easily be another distraction.
Time for me to prove
Suppose
myself.
the only thing I could try here is, what if I was to try and bring this down really, really small, and then center, and maybe nope, this thing just scales things up. It doesn't really scale things down. So yeah, I don't really have a way to fix that so much other than maybe trying to change the dots per inch itself. And even that is probably not the right solution. Alright. We may have already talked about this. Supercell has been ordered to pay 92.2 million in damages over free-to-play patent infringements. Yeah, I think we did talk about this. Supercell / Tencent. Some of these are going to be repeated information. Let's see. I guess if I do go back and find a highlight plugin for Chrome, which I forgot about that, the highlighting plugin, I could highlight what the most recent news story was always, and if that works consistently, then I would be able to flag the last story I talked about, which means I wouldn't make these stupid mistakes of repeating things. Ubisoft here closes its 2021 with a 2.7 billion in net bookings as its flagship franchises set records, which I'm a little surprised on that. Just Dance, Assassin's Creed, and Rainbow Six. Was there a new Just Dance game? I guess there was.
Help me, fairies.
And I suppose there was a new Assassin's Creed in 2020, or at least a new enough one that sold well. And Rainbow Six Siege, I think, is still fairly popular. Here we have a Gamatsu article. Resident Evil Village shipments and digital sales have topped 3 million.
Rest for a bit.
Seems like PewDiePie's stream of Resident Evil went only 6 or 7 episodes over the course of a few days. So, yeah, he's still not really much of a video game streamer, but I don't think that's really his goal to be a video game streamer, really. Speaking of YouTubers, apparently Boogie2988, who was for a brief moment there a really big video game, not video game, but YouTube streamer, and then apparently he seemed to just lose his mind, or maybe he had always lost his mind, but apparently he shot a gun in the air as a warning shot inside the city, and thus the police put a felony warrant out here for aggravated assault. I don't know how that boils down to aggravated assault, but apparently, like, you are never recommended by lawyers to fire a warning shot at all, because the danger is that you would, even if you're shooting it in the air, there's a possibility that bullet comes down and hits somebody else, and that would be unfortunate. It also implies that you aren't actually fearful for your life by firing a warning shot, whereas if you do shoot and then shoot her directly in the chest and murder them, then that can be used in your favor in a weird way, to say, oh, he actually was fearful, that's why he didn't fire a warning shot. And I'm sure there's a similar line of thinking as to why police always shoot for center mass and put multiple bullets into people, is so that they can claim that they were fearing for their life, which is something I've definitely heard them claim when all video footage seems contrary to that belief.
Shining hope. Main son of a gun, ain't ya?
But yeah, he turned himself in, and frankly, I think Boogie2988 went to the drama side of YouTube, and pretty much anytime any YouTuber goes to the drama side of YouTube, they've peaked, and they've basically gone to the dark side, and they're going to end up just ruining their lives and the lives of others in this insanity. We've seen that certainly with other celebrities too. It's not something exclusive to YouTube. But yeah. YouTube, by the way, also is rolling out more of the clips feature, so apparently everybody will get clips at some point. But they're also rolling out a shorts feature, which is, as far as I can tell, it's just Instagram, and you can let other people use the music or the audio from, I assume it's audio and not just specifically music from the awful YouTube music library, But yeah, other people can use music from your videos to make like 10-second shorts, Instagram shorts, and the system around it is weird in particular. And I'm not sure that they can use music from someone's video, so there needs to be like this initial seeding of people willing to upload the initial shorts so other people can then interact with those shorts and try to do something more with them. For my channel, I can't imagine shorts are going to be useful. Not really. 10 seconds is too short, frankly. Not to be punny, but it just is. It's not enough time to say or do anything. Shorts, I suppose, do potentially force people to say, hey, get rid of the waste of time at the beginning and get rid of the like, share, subscribe garbage. Which kind of means inherently shorts will only be useful to people who already have lots of subscribers, and it won't really be a source of new subscribers because you won't even be able to engage people on that aspect. The shorts just loop back around after 10 seconds. So yeah, I'm sure there's a button somewhere to potentially subscribe to a channel. Every short I've seen has been fairly useless. Not very good. Like not entertaining. Not something I want to see. Really. So I imagine shorts, YouTube shorts, will stick around just as a competitor to Instagram. And if anything, this might be just more confirmation that YouTube is intentionally targeting kids as their main viewers, regardless of what they actually say, because Facebook is also trying to make an Instagram for kids, and Instagram at the moment is the hot thing amongst kids, or at least that's what people are saying. And it's probably not even true. I can see clips being useful at a certain point. Although clips kind of already existed in a weird way. They sort of already existed on YouTube in the sense that you could have had chapters. The auto-detecting chapters were a thing on videos where, like, if I was playing a video game and I got to level 5, theoretically, YouTube should have been able to auto-detect that I was at level 5 and put a marker there, and that was, those would appear in Google search results. You can also commentate specific times in your description to, if YouTube's automatic detection doesn't work. Or you can say this is the beginning of, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3 at these specific times. And so effectively those were clips where you could jump to where you were going to go, and then the clip would just continue playing to the rest of the video. So I'm not sure that there's much of a difference when people can clip out portions, but I suppose it's all about engagement, really. It's what can viewers, not content creators, do. Viewers could not make clips on a person's channel. They couldn't really save them to their own YouTube account. YouTube also, I mean, Google is thinking about pushing everybody to two-factor authentication, which is a good thing in general, but could break some things also. And YouTube, Google accounts have never been really recoverable, and so there is this horrible system where if you lose access to your your Gmail, you've probably lost it forever. Let's see.
You won't escape. Hey, let's play.
Moving on, Kimetsu has a Cotton Reboot version 1.04 update is now available, adding the player characters Apple Pie, Pumpkin, and Needle.
Ow!
Which, okay. This is the
Here comes the real magic.
thing. One of the things I'm immediately recognizing is that
You're strong.
I don't think by default if I mute audio on one video it will be muted on all, so I may have to go and get a plugin that I believe I've found before that auto mutes YouTube videos, which not a big deal, certainly. Cotton kind of feels like that Slayers anime. Feels like it's from that same time period in that same kind of fantasy magic world. See, Game of Sutra has a blog, Steam tag trends, Epic and Valve lawsuit drama, and more. So this is several articles that they're clicking at, talking about. See, Streamlabs.
Time for me to
I forget
prove
what
myself.
Streamlabs is. I know they have their own version of OBS that's more dumbed down. And frankly, OBS can be particularly complicated. So I can't blame too many people from using Streamlabs OBS instead of OBS by default to start with. And I could certainly see a lot of people not wanting to really learn anything or do anything with OBS. And it would be even a little complicated just to set up and go on OBS. Yeah. Open broadcast software is like a lot of open software where there's a lot of features and a lot of potential, but you've got to dig down. You've got to take that seed, you've got to plant it, you've got to water it, you've got to be willing to learn and grow and experiment. Otherwise, you're going to not get much of a response otherwise.
Forest be at peace.
Stay away.
Let's see. Game of Sutra has an article here how Subnautica plunges deeper into rendering realistic water. Which, yeah. There definitely is a level of technology needed to make water look good. Like, they have been working on water in general for many decades as far as video games go. So here's a example. Over here's what Subnautica's water looked like before, and here's what Subnautica's water looks like after. And yeah, that definitely looks different. Definitely looks better. Seemingly also has some Gamma Sutra things to block. Let's see. Let's go ahead and play that.
How much is in it for me?
And then what do we want to do? Just in the turn? Sure. Game of Sutra has a blog, how to improve the About This Game section of your Steam store page.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
Which is really an argument. It's a blog about just improving it. Things. Apparently you can optimize your GIFs. The About This Game section on games, though, has also kind of never been a major problem point
Let's play.
for me. Like,
You're done for.
let's see.
I walk my own path.
Yeah. I don't even have a Steam game open because of what's on Steam not working to use as a comparison, but yeah. How the game developer describes their game is something that I generally don't even bother to look at, because it kind of doesn't matter what they say, it matters what they show.
Phoenix graces you with her
Video games being an audio-visual media, I'm not looking even on a storefront like Steam to get a sales pitch in text. I'm looking to be shown something that's very impressive. It's very much like how if you go to an electronics store, if any of those still exist, you're not going to be sold with someone, at least at first, telling you that a TV is the best TV ever. What's going to sell you on that TV is when it is on display and you can see its size and dimensions and its resolution and its quality and its brightness, even though a lot of those settings are turned up way too bright for what they should be. You are going to be impressed by that initial presentation. And yeah, people are generally overly impressed by their first impressions too, so like sometimes you make that knee-jerk initial reaction to something before you get all the information. And for Steam games, that generally tends for me to ignore them in that case, and not put them on the follow list or anything like that.
Whoa, you're strong.
But on a rare occasion, I will put things on the follow list and then come back later and have more reviews and think about it a second time. And in those occasions, I often decide to not pursue potentially purchasing a game any further off the follow list, and sometimes I decide to actually put it onto the wish list because it is worth pursuing. When I first started streaming, I dropped 530 frames, and that was 53 minutes ago, and I haven't dropped a single frame since. So, I did make some changes to the TTL. I don't know if I changed anything else, but I made some changes to the time to live numbers of packets. Particularly trying to shorten the numbers if they're internal and lengthen the numbers if they're external, or vice versa. So we'll see what that does. We'll see if that potentially fixes some problems. Theoretically, if you mess with the TTL, some of the tethering options, the tethering detection that happens on cell phones won't be caught. That being said, I don't tether my cell phone to anything, and that really wouldn't be that useful. Like I'd have to be in a pretty desperate situation if I was tethering my cell phone for my internal network connections. It would be slow and laggy, and yep, it would be problematic, to say the least. But once again, it might also be the only option if I was very much off the grid. And that is something certainly that you need to consider in buying a new house or moving somewhere these days, is just what is your internet service provider options? Are you going to have only one option? Is that one option potentially good, or is it terrible? Does it promise to be good now, but potentially might be terrible? Like, generally speaking, yeah, kind of only want to, you don't want to be stuck doing business with only one company for anything, if you can get away with it, because there definitely have been cases where I've done businesses with companies and they've turned out to be scum companies, and I've sworn to never do business with them again. So you don't want to be locked in to a cable provider, for instance, that's the only option, and they suck, and they treat you like a poop. Suppose that could have been a natural point for me to cuss if I wanted to. But yeah.
You won't escape.
I just don't have this burning desire to cuss. Like, it's just something that it makes you look younger, it makes you look less intelligent. There's never, well, there's almost never a scenario where cussing is going to get you more respected or treated better. And it becomes very easily the habit form. I'm much happier that I just go and a lot instead of just letting loose a tirade of F words as a verbal glue between lines of speech. Like, I imagine if you were in a game / prison setting, cussing might have a role there. But that's about the only scenario I can think of where that makes sense.
The force abandoned me.
You're done for.
I walk my own path. Just don't.
Hey, let's play. Hey, let's play.
There we go. That should do well. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. The Paradox CEO wants the publisher to, quote, do better after a disappointing quarter. I think we will start to see more stories like this in general. I suspect we will start to have a decent amount of people who are going to have to report lesser successful streams, quarters, and just, yeah, I think that's definitely on the way. Let's see, 5 losses once again. That's a lot of work to get 30 gold. Even doing the arena runs and just, I mean, I might as well start an arena run and just concede. And it would save me time. Let's see, how many tickets do I have? I have like 11, so it's not like I even have a lot of those to do an open 6. So I should do that in the new things when the new expansion comes out. And now we're just looking for ranked Dragoncraft or Forestcraft victory or 3. So play ranked, play rotation. Do we have a Dragoncraft? It's a new Dragoncraft? No. But we do have a defense deck. Let's try that. Gamatsu has an article here. The Lucasfilm classic games, the 2 Lucasfilm classic games, Zombie Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol, have been announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. What's interesting here is that they're Lucasfilm games, but they're not Scum VM games, which maybe that highlights part of the problem
This one's
with
for my
the
family.
Scum
Time for me to
VM
prove myself.
games that can be emulated and run by the Scum VM emulator, games that have been pretty much abandonware for decades. There is also a problem, certainly, around the idea that, like, if they were going to do Fate of Atlantis, for instance, which you can buy on Steam, if they were going to make a remake of this, then Disney would have to get in contact with Steven Spielberg. They own Lucasfilm games, so that wouldn't be a problem, but you would have to get that renegotiation. And same is probably somewhat true for Ron Gilbert games like Monkey Island, and although I don't think Ron Gilbert would say no. And it's questionable. I don't know how many Lucasfilm games were made that weren't point-and-click adventure games using the Scum engine. But clearly we have 2 here. These were fairly classic NES style games. Top-down twin stick shooter games with kind of random generated levels. But yeah, I think the nostalgia is the only reason really that these would potentially sell. And so the pricing certainly will be a factor on something like this. Okay, so here we have it on Steam. So yeah, Zombie Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol, not even a slash. I don't even know if Ghoul Patrol... Oh, it is an actual sequel. I thought it may just be a separate game completely. Being published by developer.emu. And see, here's the about this game section, and I just never read these, particularly since it's collapsed anyways. So yeah, I imagine this will be fine. The other things they've published, just Another World 20th Anniversary and a game called Battle Fantasia Revised Edition for Arc System Works, which is mixed reviewed. Let's see, if we were to check out Lucasfilm games at the moment, the way that is listed, there is literally only one game from Lucasfilm Games on Steam. And if we look at publisher Disney, you have a lot of Star Wars games that weren't Disney. Why Lego Star Wars is being labeled as a Disney published game on Steam, I don't know. Was that really how that worked? And see, I've just bought Star Wars bundles, so be slightly more recent. It's still 3 years ago. Episode 1 Racer I don't own. I don't know why you would buy Disney Infinity, and I don't know why that's even available for sale, let alone for $30. They are the ones publishing Fate of Atlantis, because there's been rebranding. And there's a Wall-E game, and there's Aladdin and the Lion King, and some more Infinity games. Jeez, they really want you to spend $90 on a terrible game you really can't play. Hercules, Chicken Little, yeah. Well, Disney as a publisher on Steam definitely makes it look like they have published and made a lot more games than they actually have. There's quite a lot here, and very little DLC except for Tron Run. Yep. So I suppose there might be an argument later on for me to buy more Disney games if I wanted to cover more Disney games. I've not really gone down that route though.
Hey, no dirty tricks.
I kind of find a lot of Disney games not that good or not that interesting, and yeah, it's just not something that I'm super interested in.
Shine is everlasting. You're done for.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here.
I won't let anything happen
The
to
Valve
palace.
president Gabe Newell hints at more games for consoles. Quote, "You'll get a better idea of that by the end of this year." I could see Portal and other games are ending up on the Switch. Counter-Strike, Half-Life, Team Fortress, Left 4 Dead. Any of those could end up on...
This
this is Tyler McVickerson Extra. Like, sure. Do I really believe that Valve has some secret console game? They do value their secrecy, so it is possible that they may have some new console game that has nothing to do with anything up until this point. It would be harder to believe that they actually have anything else.
I told you to leave.
That would be very hard to believe. Alright. Let's go ahead and hit this.
These weapons are for hunting dragons.
Alright. Do we want to now evolve?
It won't be long now.
Probably a waste.
Your scales. Get back here.
The crystals grow dim.
The weirdness certainly with Steam would be it would be kind of crazy if you all of a sudden could port your Steam account to consoles in any real way. That would be the ideal dream, certainly, and that's something Microsoft with the Microsoft Store, cross-platform purchasing, somewhat accomplishes, but not really to any level of success. There would just be a ton of unapproved games all of a sudden then playing on Switches and consoles. And honestly, you probably are just better off having the ability to stream to those two consoles than you are to actually try and have executables, Windows executables, try and run on consoles. Because that is just a really tall order. Let's see.
Is that a human? My raging flames have got your back.
Time to say
Try
goodbye.
and win here.
Where's the heat? That twig won't do a thing.
Moving on, Gamatsu has several new Steam World games are in development. Okay. Of course, the Steam World games in general are not particularly that interesting. Gamma Sutra says Niantic wants more developers to take its new Lightship AR dev kit for a spin. One of the filters that I have installed for a plugin on OBS does have like face detection, and I wanted to experiment with it to see if it would detect faces and zoom in on faces on like a desktop source instead of detecting the face on a camera source. Unfortunately, you have to basically make a developer account with NVIDIA and install a special code, which an augmented reality code, which yeah, that's asking a lot certainly, and it would be nicer if everything was just installed and worked face detection is not super hard nowadays with the right hardware and the right code.
My dragon and I are one.
Particularly if you don't need it to be
Dragon and I are one.
very accurate.
Time to tidy things up.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra, Roblox developers behind Adopt Me,
You're a solid fighter.
form a new studio called Uplift Games, which Adopt Me is a popular Roblox title that has amassed 22 billion visits and 60 million monthly active players. Never even heard of it. Okay, but Roblox is definitely not something I've been paying any attention to, certainly, so it's no surprise. Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for PurBlue, looking for a director of product strategy in Madison, Wisconsin, remote. They made Disney Heroes Battle Mode. Very possibly they are not making anything new with Disney. Disney has been in and out of the video game business, and
This one's for my family.
so they're more than likely going to be fairly conservative and fairly uninterested in licensing games to publishers and developers. On the other hand, with the pandemic, Disney would have been the people with the money to really double down or triple down in video games. It would have made a lot of sense, frankly, for them to say, well, we can't get these people in the theaters. You weren't going to get the next generation of fans in the theaters, really, anyways. And Disney needs somebody to they need some way to bring people to the Disney park, because they can't really just abandon the Disney parks. So they need to get people interested in Disney content. Video games definitely would be the way to go that way.
Do not seek what is not there.
Speaking of Disney video games, real world pinballs aren't really video games. I suppose technically speaking, that's true. But the Mandalorian Stern pinball table was announced yesterday, based off the Mandalorian TV series. Doesn't look particularly great as a pinball table. It has an upper mini pinball playfield, and generally when a table has that's not very, that doesn't go very well. And a standard kind of fan layout, which professional pinball players or people who have played a lot of pinball are not particularly always enthusiastic around the standard fan layout. And then it has a big child, Baby Yoda doll that does absolutely nothing other than stand there and look pretty, which is kind of dull.
Pretty useful.
Moving on, Gamma Sutra says live services are pushing EA to 6.19 billion in full year net bookings. Is bookings really the right word? I guess it is. It's what they used. Gamatsu has Bus to Fellows launching July 30th in the West. This looks to me like a visual novel. Yes, it is. Okay. No video. It's a otome visual novel, a young maiden visual novel, which you could also probably have guessed, considering there's one female character and 5 male characters. Let's see. this works.
Concoctions away. Bottoms up.
Let's see. Gamatsu has a game called Teenage Grifting Adventure Game, The Big Con. No, the game is called The Big Con. It's a quote teenage grifting adventure game. Launches this summer for Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC from Skybound Games. Well, it looks like a weird looking game. Let's see how it actually plays. See, part of the problem with hearing the audio here is that audio is not easily skipped. So then I potentially get dragged into the idea of just listening to all the audio. It looks like it's a point and click adventure game basically, and you may be going to a big convention. Let's see.
What to paint? What to capture?
I'll hit the vanguard.
It won't be long now.
I've been keeping this and I'll blast my way through.
What was I?
So yeah, I'll definitely have to install that plugin again. I had that installed and I just didn't really need it up until this point. Moving on, Open Critic here is Battlefield 5. EA Play returning to July 22nd, which doesn't have anything much to do with Battlefield 5. Okay. So a new EA Play. Let's see. Gamatsu has Toy Soldiers HD launching in August. New content, HD graphics, improved camera and sounds. I don't think I have bought the old Toy Soldiers on Steam, so there is potentially some room for improvement by getting slightly improved graphics. I did play this on the 360. I'm not sure I've played it to completion, and frankly I could see myself potentially playing it and then getting bored with it halfway through.
A painless death is the mercy I can afford you.
Yep. I definitely feel a little weird playing Fate of Atlantis because that's a game that I've played a lot of times many years ago. It feels like I'm just kind of going in circles. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It's like one more round, two more rounds, three more rounds before I've just played every single game I've ever played in my life, and at that point I probably would be so incredibly old if I could go 4 rounds playing everything I've ever played, plus trying to play other new things at a certain point. Yeah, I am dangerously approaching an end of life scenario where I'll just be so incredibly old. But that's almost a good thing too, because, and that's the weird thing about it, is that you're better off being mentally capable and happy to play games right up until the day you die, versus potentially being like demented or confused or disabled and not being able to enjoy the things you enjoyed in life. There's plenty of people in previous generations who listened to the radio and listened to records, and up until the day they died of old age.
I will rise.
And it is a much more scarier scenario that I might at some day be 80 years old and have no use of my hands or my eyes are not functional, or my ears are not functional to the point where I couldn't enjoy anything that I once enjoyed. See, can we do anything here?
Designs are like unhatched dragon eggs.
This. Get rid of this. That obviously is a discard card.
Time to say goodbye.
You are forgiven.
Let's try throwing in a dragon's claw.
Moving on, Tech Raptor. A chilled out life sim called
You're a
Hoko
solid fighter.
Life lands on Steam Early Access on June 2nd. Which, I'll see what this is. Yep, it looks to me like it is kind of a cutesy kid friendly Stardew Valley type game. I don't know if I want to play an early access version of a Stardew Valley game. Honestly, I'm not sure I want to play a Stardew Valley game at all, so there's double issues there. You see, I can see the beginning of the end, and it's only been an hour and 21 minutes, which honestly, that would be fine if every stream was an hour and 21 minutes, but there's no consistency to that. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Darius Burst Another Chronicle EX Plus for PS4 and Switch launches June 11th in the West. Which we'll see what this looks like. It more than likely is just a side-scrolling shooter. Now, if my Blue Yeti microphone was somehow so good that it could get the audio playing into my Audio-Technica headphones and going directly over my ears, if somehow my microphone was picking up a tiny bit of bleed noise, that would be impressive. I'd almost certainly have to assume that that was not the reason any audio was getting through to the recording. If any audio actually was getting through to the recording. I don't think it is, but I'll check the video just to be certain. One of the things is because I have two setups, one for recording games, which is much more simplistic, and one for live streaming. I had to copy, and often you can't directly copy. I had to duplicate and rebuild the shenanigans I did with the audio, moving the audios around to different devices. And Voice Meter Banana definitely has a lot more room to do other things. It has kind of like a web interface to play sound effects, so theoretically I could become a wacky radio DJ and play all kinds of sound effects with an app on my cell phone, which is an interesting thought. Not really anything for me. If anything, I'm a boring news anchor and not the wacky radio DJ. It also has a fairly complicated way where I could potentially, if I could get somebody to make me animated GIFs or certain frames of like an animated GIF and some kind of avatar with Voice Meter Banana, you can have it potentially press a key every time it recognizes someone is talking in a specific microphone, and then what you could do is when it goes silent, it would press one key. When it hears audio, it presses another key, and then in that scenario,
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
the one key could trigger one scene or one source on a scene to become visible in OBS versus another key making it invisible. That way you could simulate an animated GIF talking when someone is talking. There's probably a more complicated way to do that post, but that would be one way to have an automated thing. There's also software that if you have a camera in front of you doing facial detection, it could also do it that way, and that would make a lot more sense too. I like the concept, but I haven't really thought it through in any way because I don't really have any kind of avatar that I would want to pick to represent me. I feel like, yeah, I would be very much just at a loss there to even have to pick. Yeah, as stupid and as unpopular as it probably is, being a disembodied voice is about as much as I see myself as far as a need for an avatar. Sure, I pick characters sometimes at random when I'm making an RPG, but I kind of just think of myself as a big floating brain or a essence with no form as far as my avatar. Like, I don't have any other thoughts on that path. Okay.
Be gone.
You see, I don't know what I'd want to do with the branding.
The miasma pervades all.
I did notice that the number of views I have on the intro video on my YouTube channel is almost just 100 more than the number of subscribers I have. Maybe really closer to like 70 more. Which means almost every single person who has gone to my main YouTube page has subscribed. Which, that's great numbers. That's a great acquisition rate. The problem though is obviously not that many people have seen my channel or gone to my main YouTube page. So yeah, still staggering around 400, maybe 460 subscribers. I try not to keep too close of an eye on it. I would still need to basically double the number of subscribers. Someone subscribed to me and their channel was literally called "Please subscribe to my channel," and I'm like, ah, yeah, that's not gonna work. Sub for sub shenanigans. Moving on. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Ubisoft is evolving production strategy to include high-end freemium games. Basically, a free-to-play game that they promise to be AAA quality. Which we shall see if we really trust Ubisoft on that. Remedy Entertainment had put out its investment information, which I suppose you could read this, but I would kind of want it dumbed down for me too. I think Remedy Entertainment is probably pretty good. Like a 3.4% revenue boost, a operating profit of 10.5, an operating profit of 0.9 million euros, which was 10.5 of revenue, if that means anything to you. One thing I do recognize is their website is kind of terrible. Let's see. Discard a card to do that. evolve that. Hit that. Checkerupter has this interesting bit of news. A game called Stargate Timekeepers
Blow me in a
is a real-time strategy game set after SG-1 Season 7. Now, Season 7 is weird because SG-1 went way, way longer than Season 7. So, I don't know why they would do it specifically after Season 7, other than the Season 7, if I were to guess, just randomly guessing, is that Season 7 was the point where they got rid of or mostly defeated their initial Gould, I believe, or what they were called, enemies.
You're a solid fighter.
These like worm-like creatures that would take control of human bodies, and their children were incubated in the stomachs of an enslaved race. All right, well, let's do this proper. Let's build a new deck. Cards, decks, tournament winning decks. Dragoncraft. Ramp Dragoncraft. What are we missing? Let's see. Decent amount. 2, 4, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Phoenix Roost. Let's see. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, which one would cost more? Let's go with this one. Copy this. Yeah, and if you're missing like 12 cards, then you know you're not in a good position. Randomized deck being built automatically is not what I want. Let's just see if we can find something that's useful. We'll just work our way through this, and that'll give us at least a foundation to start with something. What was this called? This was called let's see, 4/21 tourney ramp. Let's call it that. And let's give that a try. I mean, it might as well be worth the effort to try something different. Not even sure I really understand what ramp is so much, so there's the thing. Yeah, the only thing I could assume as far as Stargate Season 7 is that it has to be after they beat the Gould.
This one's for my family.
They start with the right advertisement showing the Stargate opening. What did they say? What did that say? Starship Troopers Terran Command, which must have obviously been a new another real-time strategy game. The animation here does not look particularly good, particularly considering how, if you're doing a real-time strategy, you really would want to do that whole StarCraft thing of making it, making the cutscenes look very good for their time. Yeah, that is just a teaser. There's nothing there. That is nothing but a teaser. They will play through a wholly original story where Eva McCain, I don't recognize that character, and her team have to support SG-1 against Anubis' fleet. After the battle, Commander McCain and her squad will have to go through time and space to fight the System Lords, rescue their friends and allies, and more. I assume the System Lords are the gold characters I was thinking about. It is totally worth mentioning that Lionsgate here, I believe that's the name of that company, MGM. No, that's MGM. Lionsgate's a different logo. MGM has completely failed to do anything with Stargate in over a decade. Like, it's ridiculous. There's definitely been pushes and attempts to reboot the movie, remake the original movie, eliminate all of the TV series, which I think would irritate more fans than there are fans of the movie. Like, literally, there's only one movie. There's somewhere close to 13 seasons plus of Stargate SG-1 alone, not to mention the spin-offs of Stargate Atlantis, and I believe there was another Stargate spin-off.
I'll face you head on.
I guess ramp is to get more and more orbs in this case. So yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know how I could play a game like that when Red Alert 3 still is on my backlog. But I suppose I could play like the Command & Conquer series, and may still at some point in the future be itching for more content or more real-time strategy games. And at that point, a more recent RTS might make some sense. Although, I don't know if StarCraft works particularly well. It depends on if it became really popular or not. And as long as it doesn't become like an MMO or something, then it's still playable in my book. Alright. This.
The uncharted desert awaits.
And then let's see. This.
The uncharted desert awaits. What do we have here?
You're a fiery one.
This.
Witness the fury
You're
of my
a fiery
curse.
one.
And turn. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Embracer Group has purchased 4 more game studios for a combined $8.5 million. Seems like they like to buy them in groups of 4 so they can hide how much they spent in general. Let's see. Frame Break through its Amplifier Game Invest subsidiary, Massive Mini Team, Kaiko, and Appeal Studio through its THQ Nordic arm. Which definitely Embracer Group has different arms specifically so that it can It definitely can
Nothing
cheat
personal. It's
or
just
or acquire things easier.
Did I predict wrong?
I suppose that's not cheating. That's just making the business of acquisition smoother.
It's all the same to me.
Designs are like unhatched dragon eggs.
Don't take this personal.
See, that potentially could have won the game in one turn if I had played better. A fledgling studio called Hidden Leaf Games has netted $3.2 million to create a new MOBA, according to Gamma Sutra.
Well, that's too bad.
Let's see. Currently has 32 employees working on projects in countries in the US, UK, Brazil, Argentina, and India. So a very small support team. Wired has an article here. The PlayStation 5 is starting to look like the revolution it promised. Which, okay, I'm not sure why Wired is specifically going to make that argument. Clearly, also, I have not done any ad blocking on Wired. And I will need to do some touch-ups in case we ever see any other Wired articles. Okay. What does this do?
I'll hit the vanguard.
Magic is a sound.
Do you want to evolve this?
It won't be long now.
I've been keeping this. I'll blast my way through.
Giant Bomb had its first bombcast with the employees three employees who quit not there. They brought on basically the three people who weren't on air people, and yeah, so it may very well turn out to be a case that the three older employees all quit to maybe even protect the jobs of the not on air people, because the not on air people may not be needed in the merger anymore. And so very much maybe all of them are going to turn into on-air personalities.
Witness the fury of my curse.
I suppose that could be the way it's going to go.
Unhatched dragon eggs.
They did say they were going to stream on Friday, but the Beast cast as it is dead. There's basically nobody left. Yeah, there's nobody left in the East Coast, except for Jeff Bakalar, who doesn't work for Giant Bomb and is kind of the boss of a bigger, the manager of GameSpot and Giant Bomb and several other things. So yeah,
Dragon, repent your wicked deeds.
You're a solid fighter.
it probably is in part a case. When I rethink about them quitting, a lot of it may very well had to do with the fact that the New York office of Giant Bomb did not ever make any sense, did not really work. And I could see there being a conversation to bring everybody back to California, and them not wanting to go to California, or bringing everybody out of California and New York into a much cheaper state, since it's all being done remotely anyways. The more interesting thing, certainly to me, as far as this Giant Bomb bombcast, which I'm still listening to the bombcast, and that would have been today. It would have been or yesterday would have been the prime time to skip it and just start from that day to never listen to it again, is that none of them have gotten past the third Returnal, the third level of Returnal. Apparently it's super hard. They haven't beaten the second boss, and they've kind of lost interest. Also, Jeff Gersman, the main guy in charge of Giant Bomb, came out and said he's never beaten a Resident Evil game. Which, that is pretty damning, frankly. Like, you should have been able to make it to the end of some Resident Evil. Somebody would have to go and investigate if he's actually ever reviewed a Resident Evil game. But it kind of doesn't matter. We already know that they don't finish games a lot of times at Giant Bomb and most mainstream video game journal sites, that they just play 2 hours into a game and then give it a review. And frankly, if I had to turn around reviews in any sort of time, I probably would be forced to do the exact same thing. It's kind of like the whole situation where people skip safety procedures because they're on such a tight timeline. But yeah, I would think he should have been able to finish one Resident Evil game. Tell me you've finished like Resident Evil 0 or something that was the on-rail shooter. I think that was 0. Or tell me you finished, like, well, you should have finished Resident Evil 4. Obviously. There's no reason to not have finished that.
Fresh manna melons and potion fruit.
Designs are like unhatched dragon eggs.
Moving on. Game of Citra has a job listing here. Hackjack Studios is hiring a Unity generalist and senior developer. I don't feel like this may be a video game company. Oh, it is. They're working on Pigeon Simulator. Okay. Alright, well, that's something. This has at least 5. Evolve it. That works well.
Raging flames have got your back.
And then we'll wait for overflow to crank up some more.
Won't do a thing. Freshness guaranteed.
It didn't even evolve. It could have evolved. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Valtherian Arc Hero School Story 2 launches in early access this summer. Which, do we have a video to see what this is? Yeah, a lot of these audios are weird too. The trailers, and they don't really play a good role as being informative.
You're a fiery one.
Yep, that does not look particularly good as far as a game. It's for PC. Looks like a mobile phone game. Alright. Can we do this?
Designs are like
Yes.
unhatched dragon eggs.
And this.
My raging flames have got your back.
And then this. And evolve.
Be gone.
Where's the heat? Twig
Smack
won't do
it.
a thing.
Eureka! Feel free to call on me again.
Let's see. Open Critic has an article here. V Rising is a battle royale with vampires. Okay. So, I don't know if I think that's a good idea. See, Gematsu has Trigger Witch launching this summer for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Which, that's interesting graphics. It's just a top-down twin-stick shooter with a gun, playing as a witch. Yep, that doesn't mean anything. Oh, I suppose I should mention that that does not look interesting. I should mention that there is definitely a scenario.
Nothing personal. It's justice.
Oops. I shouldn't have played that. Where I have disabled a lot of potential outputs on my computer. Having 3 monitors that are TVs, each of the TVs has a speaker going through that same HDMI. So it would totally be doable for me to play audio out of one TV versus playing audio out of another TV versus playing audio out of another TV. I don't do that. I have those just disabled by default. Which, yeah, honestly, if I were to hand my computer to somebody else, it would be so customized that I'd have to walk them through it, just how to set things up and use it. But that's probably fine, because that's also not something that's really going to happen. Destroy a random enemy follower. I think we kind of have to play this.
Fists of immortal supremacy.
Strike.
It won't be long now.
Fists of eternal ray. Sundering fist.
Though I set, I will rise again.
But I'm going to lose again. Gematsu has an article here. A digital-only QuakeCon 2021 is set for August 19th through the 21st. Normally QuakeCon would be in Dallas, I guess. Dallas, Texas.
You're a solid fighter.
Let's see. Let's see. I don't know why, but Power Rangers Battle for the Grid has a Chun-Li outfit. Unless there is a Chun-Li character in one of the Power Rangers series. To me, this looks very much like it is just Chun-Li in a slightly Power Rangers head helmet. That's the word I'm looking for. Yep. Hudley Battle. Yeah, here you can see it is a skin. Ironically, like one of the good endings for Chun-Li in one of the Street Fighter games is saying that she was only fighting people in the Street Fighter tournament because she was avenging her father, and then she can now go back to being a normal everyday girl. And it shows this picture of her just with long flowing blonde hair in regular outfits. Which, okay. Ryu is also a skin. They didn't bother to mention that in this trailer until the very end. Let's see. Paradox Interactive has this message. They confirm that they're working on a project with Colossal Order, but still too early in development to share more information at this time. So almost like they knew a leak was coming and they wanted to kind of try and squash it. Paradox Interactive is the maker of City Skylines. And this is a post on Steam, even though it frankly looks very different from Steam. In a lot of ways, Steam could easily be the website of source for video game companies to post messages and blogs and things like that. It would definitely be putting all your eggs in one basket, but there isn't really a great reason to run your own website and have to maintain your own website and pay for that service. Speaking of Street Fighter, here's a Street Fighter character. And certainly I have seen a lot of video game websites that just have nothing on them. So yeah, if Steam started to have LinkedIn features where you could post job listings for other programmers, I don't know if it's worth their efforts to do that. That would be interesting though. Gotta play this first, I guess. We'll just end that there. Let's see. Gamatsu, the Near Reincarnation English trailer and pre-registration is opened in the West. Reincarnation is the cell phone game. I'm still not sure that this game actually has any gameplay. I guess it does. There, it looks like it's probably a somewhat infinite runner where you're gonna just fight people in an RPG setting for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if Reincarnation actually is particularly short and basically just an advertisement. Although if it is supposed to be an advertisement for the new Nier game, it's a little late and unnecessary. Because that game already sold pretty well. And seeing some duplicate tabs here, which I don't know what would have caused that. I did do a self-test on my battery backup, and it went from saying it was 100% full to 62% full, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the problem here. Is every time my battery backup kicks in, it does die immediately. It's supposed to have like 26 minutes, which still isn't really a lot of time, and it jumped down to 13 minutes. And times I've seen it is pretty much just shut down the computer immediately. Which I need to figure out a way to get streams to stop when that happens, and that should be a test. Certainly is to figure out how can I make OBS to recognize that it's on battery backup and shut down the recording as soon as possible. Okay.
Be gone.
I think I overused that card, but whatever.
Stay away from me.
We do have one game from Steam called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. I feel like we may have already talked about this. It definitely looks like a parkour Jet Set Radio style game. It's definitely inspired by Jet Set Radio. It's coming out at some point in the future. I can put it on the fall list. I probably shouldn't, but yeah, that definitely doesn't leave me with a lot.
Witness the fury of my curse.
Definitely can see how ramp here helps you, and that's just not a strategy I've even tried to play so far. Gamma Sutra has an article. John Romero is giving a Quake postmortem at GDC 2021, which is also digital only. Gamatsu has the same article. Embracer Group acquires Appeal Studios, Kaiko, Massive Mini Team, Frame Break, and establishes Gate 21. I don't recognize any of these logos, although Kaiko maybe I saw once. And then Gate 21, which is going to enable the creation of world-class 3D characters. Okay. Let's see how this works. Do we want to evolve here?
It
Probably.
won't be long now.
Fists of eternal red, sundering fist.
See, EA Play Live 2021 is set for July 22nd. See, this was like the last game that I opened before the what's on Steam Twitter feed stopped working. And this looks like an interesting potential puzzle point and click music game, which I already put on the follow list. See, Gamma Searcher has an article. Turkish mobile studio Ace Games raises $7 million to develop new casual titles. How in the world did I lose there? It's ridiculous. It is so crazy how often you can just lose when you should be so overwhelmingly, overpoweringly winning in some of these scenarios, and yet somehow out of the blue they just snatch victory from under my nose. Gamatsu says Playism game show 10th anniversary special live stream is set for May 15th. Now Playism, let's see. Apparently one of the hosts is going to be Gotchman, not Gotcha Man.
This one's for my family. I have to act.
I'd like to know what games they made, so let me just click here. Record of the Lotus War. Angel of Death, Toho Luna Nights, Binsoko Night Festival, Tasamachi Behind the Twilight. That was that bad game that didn't really work. The Silver Case, Gnosia, maybe Bright Memory, game called Replica, Tokyo the Tower of Perpetuity, Mad Father remake. I'm going back in the history as far as things tagged as Playism. And yeah, they have like 4 or 5 games, and none of them look terrible. Well, maybe one of them was terrible, but none of them looked terrible. So yeah, I would have to chalk up Playism as a fairly standard Japanese game developer. Let's see.
Designs are like unhatched dragon eggs.
G4 is doing a contest with SteelSeries to give away headphones, but that's not really what I wanted to mention here. They retweeted somebody about mental health awareness campaign, and then they on the 10th put out this must-watch anime. And see, I don't even know what this is from, if this is an old anime or if this is a new anime. To Your Eternity, never heard of it, but it does kind of highlight some weirdness, certainly on G4. Like, immediately, even in this process of B4, G4, because they're not even ready to launch, they have lost the plot. Like, what is the number one thing everybody said about G4 that they didn't want to see happen? They didn't want them to show episodes of cheaters, and they didn't want to see them show episodes of cops. Why is that a problem? Because that was, at the end of G4, the only thing that was getting aired, and it had nothing to do with video games. So they weren't staying true to their branding and to the theme of having video game content. Now, in all fairness, there should have been a lot more complaining about Attack of the Show, too. Because Attack of the Show never really was about video games, and definitely was not consistently about video games. And honestly, if G4 just wants to be nerd culture, they need to kind of come out and say that directly, is that we're going to be nerd culture, or fandom culture, or niche fandom culture, and not just video games. Because, yeah, it gets dangerous if they start to focus on anime for many different reasons, but like, there's plenty of other anime coverage sites out there. Whether or not you like them or agree with them is a different question. There's plenty of anime reviewers on YouTube now that are doing much better coverage, or just as good coverage as the old sites that, and people who would have podcasts or websites. So yeah, I don't know why they would dip their toe in that well. If G4 somehow was bringing over anime and dubbing it and putting it on whatever TV channel / YouTube channel they eventually have, there might be something to that idea. But I don't even think G4 aired anime ever. That's particularly one of the weird things. But it certainly isn't just the anime. G4 has been all over the place as far as who they've decided to allegedly hire. A VTuber, for instance, a Japanese virtual YouTuber, and having them hired is weird, to say the least. It kind of feels like they don't know what they're doing. It kind of feels like whatever G4 is when it launches could very well be very different from what it is a year later, or 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years. Very much where Geek and Sundry also very much changed. Arguably, Geek and Sundry sometimes limited the content it promised around Kickstarters. And some people definitely limit the content they'll make around the certain goals of PayPal and things like that, Patreon. So yeah, I think they need to establish themselves and create a firm foundation as a channel of some sort, TV channel, YouTube channel, and then maybe every now and then they could go off in the weeds and try something new. But they shouldn't be trying something new at the beginning. There are, I think, as many, if not more, video game fans out there that hate anime or don't like a lot of anime. That there's definitely a lot of people who will say they love things like Dragon Ball Z, but have never even considered looking at anything else. Anyways, moving on. Gamma Sutra has an article. Devs take to Twitter to encourage pay transparency across the game industry. Which, yeah, at certain points, these slacktivists need to just form a union. But talking about your pay in any job field is the only way you're going to even begin to realize that there is a problem and that discrepancy between lots of people. Like, often men and women in the exact same roles with the exact same other mitigating factors. Women will get underpaid. Minorities, very much the same case. So these discussions need to happen. But once you actually do have a union, the disparity tends to go away very quickly, because unions almost always negotiate for a pay scale, a pay rank based somewhat on seniority and seniority alone, which that fixes a lot of those problems. Of course, there is still industry-wide disparity in the sense that somebody at Gearbox, for instance, is probably getting paid less than somebody at EA or Ubisoft, because we know Gearbox in particular promised a whole bunch of bonuses, these giant bonuses, and then under-delivered and didn't deliver on bonuses when Borderlands 3 came out. So, yeah.
I'll open the way. Follow behind.
This town eats good folk for breakfast.
So, seems like what's on Steam kicked in and started working again. And I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed. That way we can cover all the new news before we start to cover the old news. That being said, there will be a gap between what came out, in between what's on Steam now and what came out a couple days ago when it stopped working. And those games will just be overlooked. And that's just direct evidence that I am not, because I'm relying on a single source for all the games that come out on Steam, I'm not in any way in a good position to guarantee I've seen every game that comes out on Steam. Although arguably I'm probably one of the small minority of people who've seen the vast majority of games that come out on Steam.
You crusty horseshoe.
Let's see. I'm just scrolling down my Twitter feeds. Honestly, like with Humble Bundle, no longer me really looking at Humble Bundle, considering it. That was just like one more daily or weekly email that I got that I've unsubscribed from recently, to the point where you have to have an email address, but boy am I not getting any emails these days. But yeah, I suppose that's fine. I suppose that's just efficiency. The vast majority of every email I ever have gotten was a advertisement anyways. So, yeah. Basically all I'm saying is I've managed to get the spam really gone. Which I guess theoretically I could get to inbox 0 if I tried. Yep. So, TechRaptor has an article here. Sega wants Persona 6 and Atlas games to globally launch at the same time. Which, okay, they'll have to deal with Atlas on that and see if they're willing to do that. Let's hit that, I
Magic is a
suppose.
sound.
Best of luck to you. Be gone.
There's more than one way to roast an enemy.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. The side-scrolling platformer called Lumino. It has been announced for Switch and PC. Let's see what this looks like.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Looks artsy. Are we going to be able to actually see some gameplay? Or is this just all a teaser? Looks like it's all a teaser. Seems to be an underwater game. Have we finally hit a point where underwater games can actually succeed? Because in the old days, you definitely couldn't succeed with an underwater game. TechRaptor has an article. A big free Curious Expedition 2 update arrives May 21st. Let's see. So, Curious Expedition 2 is the name of the game. Okay, I think I recall seeing this. There's also an original game. Let's see what that looks like, and let's see what that looks like. Yeah. And you have this pixel graphics, boring looking game that people are very positive with. So I'll give it a chance. Put it on the fall list. And then you have a more modern game with more modern graphics, which is very positive, so I'll take it off the fall list and put it on the wish list. Okay, what can we do?
Witness the fury of my curse.
Cycles on.
An evolution point and a play point. I don't know which one I want to do, actually.
What a wonderfully cruel world. It won't be long now.
Let's just attack here.
Despair or slay. Don't take this personally.
Best of luck to you.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Geometric Sniper Blood and Pairs, which seems to have in its advertisement a whole bunch of positive reviews when there are 0 positive reviews on Steam. So I guess maybe this is a sequel to the original. So let's go look at the $1.99 original. It's on the follow list. Do I want to play a hidden object game? Or a geometric sniper? I'll put it on the wish list. It came out just in December, so it seems like they are kind of releasing a sequel fairly quickly.
Well, that's too
And I'm
bad.
not sure this is much different than the original game. So I'll put it on the follow list. Next we have a game called Lost and Round, which looks like nothing. $4.49 English only. Let's see, 2 plus 2. Well, I suppose you do that.
Fresh manna melons and potion fruit.
And do. Which one do we want to kill? That one, I suppose.
Magic is a salve and a scourge.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Mesel Genesis Arcade, which, yeah, doesn't look interesting. Looks like it's a round bubble bobble, although actually that idea is kind of interesting on its own. $4.99. I'll give it a chance. I'll put it on the fall list, just because a round attack towards a bubble bobble concept might spice up that kind of gameplay. I guess it really boils down to whether I'd want to actually cover Bubble Bobble first. Here we have a game on Steam called Battlestar Asteroids, which is just an Asteroids clone for $1.19.
I've been keeping this
Really,
in
we're
reserve.
just getting a rough sampling
My apologies.
of games that would have come out. Here we have a game called Survival Horror number 8436, which at least they're being honest at that point. That it's just a low effort horror game. English full audio. What happens if I click all games? Actually, sort by release date. That's well, I guess I could use that as a source. Here we have a game on Steam called Ring Racer, which doesn't look like anything. $3.39, English full audio, several other languages. Right. This is kind of pointless.
I shall give birth to a new world.
Hey, this wasteland's a fixer-upper.
Thus, the world ends.
This is pure craftsmanship.
So
Thus,
we hit
the
this,
Finish the job.
and then
This
when
is
you hit
pure craftsmanship.
this,
Well, on to the next project.
and then in return,
world cycles on.
next we have a game on Steam called Hunt Down, which seems to be, if any of these images would load. Yeah, honestly, if the images are taking a while to load on Steam, and what's on Steam is not working, doesn't that really imply it's Steam's issue? Yeah, this looks like a side-scrolling shooter game. It looks old, pixely graphics, but it looks old school, I would say, more. But it doesn't look bad, so I'm going to put it on the fall list. I keep getting very close to feeling like I'm going to win, and then not winning, which is frustrating to say the least. Like, I've only been playing for 2 hours and 24 minutes, and already it feels like I've been playing for 3 or 4, just because of the incredibly low win ratio. Which arguably, maybe that is just a statement that there's too much skill in Shadowverse, and thus it's not friendly to new players, whereas Hearthstone
Time for me to
could
prove
often be
myself.
very random,
Let's get
and
this party started.
there was ways to lower the skill level. Next we have a game on Steam called Wild Runs, which just looks like a asset flip platformer. It's free, so I guess the price is right. Although it has this beta UL end user license agreement, English full audio. It's not labeled as a beta anywhere else, though. Let's see. Disbelief is hiring a senior programmer for Chicago, Massachusetts, or Chicago, Illinois. Take your pick. I believe Chicago, Massachusetts, and Chicago, Illinois are actually the same city, crossing the border. Here we have a game on Steam called Mini Chef, which looks like it's a very zoomed in match 3 game. Looks like it's just a cell phone game that's been zoomed in a lot. $2.69, English and Portuguese, Brazil.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Stay away.
That. Next we have a game called Broken Sky. There's a different game called Broken Sky that's way better known. And this is a point where Steam should probably step in and say, hey, 2 games can't be called the same on our storefront. That's just going to create confusion. $6.79, English only. Like,
The forest abandoned me.
even though Broken Sky is not particularly the most creative name ever, it's still not enough of an excuse to let somebody, some new game, use an old name. What am I thinking about? Wait a minute. I don't know a game named Broken Sky. I take back everything I said. Must be falling asleep more than I thought I was. There's a point-and-click adventure game called Broken Sword, and there's a point-and-click adventure game called Beneath a Steel Sky. I merged those two in my head just to think of a game that doesn't exist called Broken Sky. Alright, well, I retract everything I just said because that was dumb. Let's see. Just have to play that now. Next we have a game on Steam called Crime Reaper, which looks like it is a Sudoku game without Sudoku numbers. Apparently it's murder Sudoku. $7.99, English only. I definitely need to put this on the follow list because there is several Sudoku games made by one specific company that I would like to cover their games, but I would also appreciate the opportunity to lower the focus on that specific game company and play some other Sudoku games also. So yeah, here's apparently all products on Steam sorted by release date. So I theoretically could scroll down here and see if there's anything worth mentioning. Here you have Gin Conception. Problem with this is I would have to open something in a new tab. I would have to decide whether it's an actual game in the first place, because a lot of this is just DLC. A lot of this is announcements for things that aren't out yet. These would be like Chinese free-to-play things. Suppose my entire
Mankind's hatred is a curse.
my entire looking at new games could simply be scrolling down something like this and just mentioning or picking and heavily curating things. Some demos here. Let's see, we're already to May 11th, so Simon the Sorcerer 3D. Why would that have just come out with no advertisement? Tic-tac-toe together. Some of these might just be things being changed also. Like delisted from by one company, relisted by another because the game's changed hands. It really is not a better system than what Steam has. What's on Steam has. And see, we are back to this point anyways, so really there just wasn't that many games that were listed, and I imagine that's very possibly because the downtime was on Steam's side. Alright, so now theoretically I would need 2 more Forest Crowd victories, and the only reason I even got one is because they got bored of me talking. Well, they can't hear me talk, but they got bored of me taking forever. So yeah, you have a game here called Gin Conception, which is a JRPG. It looks fine. Doesn't look particularly special, though. It's $14.99 from
Time for me to prove
a company I
myself.
don't recognize.
Even if I'm scrap, I can still fight.
I think even though this does have slightly better polished visuals and doesn't look like it's just made with RPG Maker, it's still not really doing anything new. Then here we have Dashi's Paranormal Activity, which clearly is just a low effort horror game coming soon. Here we have a game called A Night in Vanit Manor, which is a VR game that seems like it is you're in a box and the room tilts around and twists. Well, that might be a concept for a video game. I do not see an actual video game here. Early access coming soon. I think particularly in VR, teleporting you to a different side of a room and standing on the walls is not particularly disorienting, more than just playing VR in general. Here we have a game called Boggs Earth vs. Sea, which looks like a nicely animated hack and slash boss rush game inspired by Vietnamese myths. Man, if I pronounce one thing right, I mispronounce the other. I'm gonna put this on the fall list. It's coming soon.
May the forest be at peace.
And see that I only really opened like 5 tabs. Here we have a game called Epic Palace Kenosis, which looks like it's a real-time strategy game by the tags, although I don't really know what it is in reality. Has this developer made anything else called Epic Palace? No. Well, it looks interesting that the visuals are so good for something that you really wouldn't need, but that does also kind of highlight my whole point as far as real-time strategy games, is that clearly the graphics should be better because you're going to be using them a lot and they should be very appealing. This doesn't particularly look that great, but that does.
Stay away.
Next, we have a game called The Hand of Merlin, which apparently is a turn-based tactical game. Trying to get some screenshots of some zoomed up graphics. Otherwise, I'm gonna be not particularly interested in this. See, if this was a Diablo hack and slash game, I might be more interested in it than a turn-based game. Yep, this feels too zoomed out, and anything turn-based is gonna feel slow. $19.99. Is this from? Apparently it's from Crow Team and Room C Games. What is Room C Games? And I can't tell. It just takes you to the Versus Evil group. First Class is a multiplayer party game. Hitchhiker. Yeah, this was a game that I'm not sure it's particularly well received. If only 21 people have bothered to review it. It looks very surreal, so more than likely I would choose to keep Hitchhiker or put it on the wish list or keep it on the fault list, even if it is just a kind of linear story experience. If it gets halfway as good as something like the Stanley Parable, then it's probably a journey worth going on. Here we have a game called Simon the Sorcerer 3D, which definitely looks like a Simon the Sorcerer game. Did this actually get made before, or is this brand new? Well, I'm gonna put that on the follow list. I'm not sure I want to cover all the Simon the Sorcerer games in general, but at some point we probably will want to do that. Play a little Protectionist. And then we have a game called Helix, which looks like a frustration platformer. We still have far too many of those. Seems like you affect gravity in this one. It's coming soon. Okay. And so then that leaves me with the games on my fall list, and we were going to do fall list cleanups. So this one is January 22, and it has only 10 reviews, and it looks like it's just a horror mystery game. 80% positive. Is there relevance here? Not at this price, and not on this thing. Honestly, this doesn't even look particularly that interesting. I think there might be... Nope, this is the only game they've ever made too, so yeah, there's no relevancy there either. So let's remove that from the fall list.
I'm already a proper lady, you know. You're done for.
Go ahead and
All the magic.
try and
Is that how you
get
treat
rid
a
of
lady?
everything.
Adorable to the end. No.
Let's see. Here we have alternate Jake Hunter Deadliest Awakening of Golden Jazz. So it's an interesting sounding visual novel. You see these slightly interesting graphics, different style, but clearly it's mostly negative, so we can remove that. I guess if we could see if there was another Jake Hunter Deadliest Awakening game. Nope. Not from this developer, at least. It could be that there is a different Jake Hunter game. And let's see, is there all lists? Nope, I don't have any other lists. Browse. Yeah, that wasn't well received. And then this is a much older game. I know that was one of the games I was going to get on sale. So yeah, there can't be another Jake Hunter game, really, unless it was a really, really old game. So yeah, that visual novel did not succeed, which is good because that's really what we want to see, is a illumination in particular of visual novels. Would be appreciated, because I know I have a lot of those on the follow list. Here we have a game called Alveoli, which is a minimalistic game. I shouldn't be considering it though. It's not. Hasn't been on the follow list long enough. I'm only looking for things that came out in 2020. Here we have Always Legacy, very positive. Looks like a Zelda game, platformer. Looks good. Good. We can add that to the wish list. Of course, the wish list now is potentially going to start getting bigger and bigger.
There you are, my little trespasser.
Of course I do.
Here we have a game called Amazing Fix, and I think we'll probably just stop after A's.
Here's the shady part.
This is a 2D house flipper puzzle game. It hasn't been out long enough, I don't know. I gotta check the dates first. So here we have a game called An Evil Existence, which is mixed with 11 reviews. Is this single player? Some attempt at a horror game that didn't succeed. And I can definitely see the graphics don't look good enough for horror games. Unfortunately, you are going to be to that high standard. You're going to be held to a very high standard as far as horror games.
It won't be long now. Hey, let's play.
Okay. Here we have a game called Ancient Abyss, which, while hasn't been out for 30 days, has enough positive reviews to move forward. Looks kind of like a Zelda game. They're calling it a hack and slash roguelike. It's early access though. Oh, I have to remind myself to also check early access because I don't want to put something that's early access in the wish list.
You complete me. Ladies and gentlemen,
Here's the shady part of town.
Here we have a game called Ancient Evil, which looks almost like a board game. It's not relevant, obviously. Only 7 user reviews, still early access. Okay. What can we do? We've got to kill this. And we've got to deal 5 damage here.
You are, my little trespasser.
oath.
That.
Such a lovely couple.
Whoa! You're strong!
There, I just died. Here we have a game called Ancient Knowledge that has only 4 reviews. Is this some kind of student project? Yeah, I don't think I could bother with this, particularly if it's $9.99 and it's never really gone below that. We're using SteamDB's plugin to help me determine that. So that can leave. Here's a VR game, Angry Birds VR Isle of Pigs, which is very positive. But of course it's a VR game. Honestly, kind of a great game for VR if you were going to start in VR. Here we have Animal Doctor, which I had hoped that we could have found a more girl-focused Animal Doctor game. Although it doesn't even really have to be girl-focused, just a game where you interact with a veterinarian or are a veterinarian is an interesting concept in general. Unfortunately, it's mostly negative, so that's gotta go. I don't even particularly care in this case that it hasn't been out particularly that long. March 25th, 2021. If you're hitting 17% negative of your 17 reviews, you've peeved off somebody enough that I don't want to buy your product. Now, I don't even know why this is on the follow list in the first place. This is just a Candy Crush game. There's no reason for this to have been on the follow list. So that's gonna go. I probably just hit the button on accident.
Mankind's hatred is a curse.
Like if I'm gonna look for a match 3 game, there's plenty of match 3 games that I'm sure are better that I could find. See, here we have a game called Animal Rescuer, which is 78% positive. It's a weird idea to have a game that kind of looks like a Witcher game, but you're just wandering around finding animals and kind of nothing. Seems like not much else. I'm gonna leave that on the follow list and think about it later. It's probably more efficient to not agonize on a decision and just leave it and come back later than it is to potentially agonize on a single game to whether or not you're gonna eliminate it or not. Here we have a game called Annilyn, which looks like an old school arcade game, or it's kind of parroting some old school games. It's very positive, so yeah, I'm gonna put that on the follow list, on the wish list. I mean, so used to saying follow list. Let's see. Do 1 damage there.
Oh, come on!
And then do that there.
Wither.
And then that there. Here we have a game called Another Dawn with 9 user reviews on January 31st. Nope, this doesn't look polished enough. $19.99. It's been as low as $3.74. play this
All I need's an opening and you're toast.
and evolve that.
You're done for!
Sorry, but the time for games is over.
And
One helping of this and it's 90. One helping of this and it's 90 not for you.
A fitting end. Forever and evermore.
hit that, and hit that. Next we have a game called Antidote, which looks like it's a VR game where you've been poisoned, kind of like a Saw scenario, I think, and you have to solve puzzles from the looks of it. It has only 5 user reviews. It came out June 19th in 2020. And at a certain point, relevancy becomes an even bigger factor in VR, because there is the bigger question, is VR relevant at all? So that's gotta leave the call list.
Hey, let's play!
Let's see. This guy. Or this.
Hey, let's play!
Attack there. Oh,
It won't be long now!
attack here.
For the cuddles.
I'm trying so hard to not kill this guy.
One helping of this and it's 90 not for you.
Let's see. Next we have a game called Apothecator, which looks like it's positive enough. 100% positive. I'm not sure it's really a game I want to play, because you're making different recipes, and so it kind of is just a cook serve delicious concept with a slightly more complicated concept. I think I'll just leave it on the follow list for a little bit longer. Let's see.
And those acorns flying out of the woods!
Let's do that.
There's a chance for a grand slam!
My domain reaches to the ends of the skies.
So do I want to evolve anything?
One helping of this and it's 90 not for you.
Yeah, I'll leave Apotheker. I'm having trouble certainly staying awake at this point, so yeah, I'm not making great decisions. Here we have a game called Aquanox, which is very positive in 2001, but I just don't recognize this game, and so I'm gonna skip it. Yeah.
You're pretty good.
Unless somebody wants to gift me Aquanox or make a convince me why I should play Aquanox. And then we have Aquanox 2, so this may have been
So,
The reason why it was on the
how's it
follow
hanging?
list is that
And how do you do?
Aquanox 2 looks a little bit better, but it also looks fairly boring. So I'm not gonna put that on the wish list
Lift your
either.
head up low.
I don't need to
Keep your
own every
feet on
single
the sky.
THQ Nordic game that I've never heard of. Okay.
May the forest be at peace.
What can we do? We gotta kill this one or we're gonna lose. But I don't know how we do that. I think we can win. At least this point. Nope.
Let's play.
I could have evolved this to 6 and attacked then, but I didn't. Here we have a game on Steam called Arabelle, which is 14 positive.
I'll open the way. You follow behind.
Let's see, 100% positive. Do I want to potentially get something that's not particularly that relevant, but maybe looks interesting? Or is this just really
Revel in the fluff
a tech demo or vertical slice?
What's that for?
Not seeing a lot of enemies. Yeah, whatever. We'll put it on the wish list. $2.50 is not super expensive.
Let's play. Let's play. Let's play. This ends here. Bad people are evil. Stay away. Oh, waffle cakes. Let's play.
I've lost again. This will be our last game. Here we have a game called Arcanion Tale of Magi,
Whoa, you're strong.
which just doesn't have enough relevancy. Just 3 reviews. Too expensive. It's gotta go. Doesn't look particularly that interesting. See, here we have a game called Archaeologist Simulator, which is a kid's game. Yeah, I'd have to think about that some more. Depends on if I'm actually just looking for a kid's game or not. Here we have Archer VR from April, which is obviously a tower defense game in VR. Yep. I don't think that's relevant enough. Early access also. Can you even buy it? Nope. It's not even available for purchase anymore. Let's see. Here we have a game called Arcus, which is basically the exact same idea, standing in a place, but it doesn't require VR. And it's free, and it's 93% positive, so you know what, I'll just put it on the wish list. There's no indication that it's a student project or anything, so kind of hard to justify playing a free game when I can just say go play Arcus if it interests you. Here we have a game called Area 86. Physics-based escape the room puzzle game. Interesting. Looking at the video and how it's playing, it does look very interesting. Mostly positive, $9.99, been down to $5. I'll put that on the wish list. Here we have Arise, a simple story. Is it early access? No. It's rated very positively. It's from Techland. This is one of those games that almost certainly, had I looked at it a week after it came out, it would have been reviewed fairly high. Obviously that goes to the wish list. I'm really getting steamed as far as how much this game wants my time and doesn't really reward my time well. So yeah, either I could wait 20 hours to get another daily quest, or I could play through here and to try and get 2 more quests. Plus we have a whole arena run that needs to happen. Here we have a game that's not ready yet. This is Aritia and the Twin Masks. Yeah, that really highlights how there's a lot of games that were announced and just haven't happened. Arizona Sunshine, the zombie game that with VR. Well, I guess it has to stay on the fall list. It is very positive. Here we can remove Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace, which I probably just accidentally clicked on this. This is from Asmodee Digital, and it looks like it's a action RPG game. Jeez. Game, are you gonna load the screenshots or not? May just have to... Yeah, that took forever sitting. Let's try this again. Arkham Horror Mother's Brace. It looks interesting. Why is it so bad? Isn't this a werewolf type game? Let's see if we can see some reviews. Game is extremely awkward. It has some charming ideas, characters, and concepts, but it's extremely clunky, slow, and makes no sense at times. Simply put, to make it simple, complete nightmare of a game that is entirely unplayable. The controls are clunky, unfriendly. Yeah. I guess that was what I was hoping to find, was that perhaps they would have patched it and fixed it, but no, they didn't. Then if we look at Asmodee Digital, aren't they the people that make the board games that all kind of suck? Yeah. I think they are the people that kind of make the board games that all kind of suck. Yeah, Ticket to Ride kind of sucked and was too expensive. That seems to be their bread and butter, is to overcharge you and underdeliver. See, we should have gotten a new basic card deck. I'll just scroll down here just to see how this goes. I should have gotten this classic card pack a lot earlier. It was a reward for like reaching level 100. And almost certainly none of those are new. And yeah, we are still trying to get to 400, and we're, I'd say 1,300 gold short. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to do the arena off screen. I just don't. I'm not gonna be awake enough to do it otherwise. This is interesting because I kind of want to remove this from the fall list, but it kind of justifies itself. Aaron's Adventure. It says Epic Mega Grants. Did the Epic Store fund this? I guess I just am gonna have to leave it because honestly, I'm not sure I want to play a game that looks like this. Actually, I'm kind of fairly certain I don't want to play a game that looks like this, so let's just take it off the polling list and risk it. It's just not polished enough. It's too low polygon. Here we have Artformer, which has 4 user reviews. Which, yeah. Do I want to put this on the wish list because it looks weird, or do I want to eliminate it because it's not relevant? Well, part of the problem is it's early access from 2019. I'm gonna give it a chance. Like, there's definitely an argument that with the whole pandemic situation that people may have slowed down on production of their work. Yandere Simulator has been working, Yandere, developer of Yandere Simulator, has been working on that game for 7 years, which, as much as I still think he just does not have the skill set or the personality to actually finish a project, he's too ADHD, for lack of a better description. I will say, in all fairness, 7 years in development hell is not the worst I've ever heard as far as a game. There definitely have been 10-year, 13-year, multiple reboots and restarts as far as games have been considered. Let's see, here we have Ashwalkers. This was that weird black and white game that just came out. And it's already mostly positive, so yep. Put that on the wish list. Thought this would go by faster though. Here we have Asterix and Obelix, which is mostly positive, so unless this is a VR game, you can put that on the wish list. This is a re-release of an older game, remastered. I've never played it, so I'd like to check it out. Here we have a survival horror game called At the Dead of Night, where apparently Mark players played it, and thus it's overwhelmingly positive. Okay, well, fair enough. If people like it, and this is a good example of what a good horror game can be, wandering around, that's fine. It's part horror film, part ghost hunt. Because, yeah. Next we have Atelier Fierce, which is mostly positive, so put that on the wish list, which almost certainly means the next one is the Atelier Lydia and Sueli, which fine, we can put that on the wish list too. As far as all the Atelier series, if I'm gonna play any of them. And then Atelier Sophie, which is mixed at 65%, but heck, at that point you just might as well get them all. Is there any cut content or any reason why this one is specifically not liked? See, yeah, I remember reading this review. Neither the original version nor the DX are the end-all be-all versions. This has got new outfits and dialogue such as you might want, but the graphical downgrade, check the discussions for detail, and there's a lot that looks terrible compared to the original version. Yeah, well, whatever. Here we have a game called Atom RPG Trudograd, which is very positive. What would be really shocking is, because this game at the first glance, just by the name, looked like it might be a low-effort Russian game. It would be really shocking if I found out that a lot of Russian games, low-effort Russian games, money laundering games, were rated very positively, and that they've somehow managed to sneakily convince people or get people that work for them to review games better. Here we have a game called Awaken the Time, which just looks like an asset flip first person shooter. So that can go away. I also found out, as far as follow list cleanups, if I click on a link and nothing comes up, eventually Steam removes it from the follow list automatically. There's no way for me to remove it anyways, so it doesn't matter. Here we have a game called AWE, which is supposed to be a psychological horror game, but it has like 3 reviews, so I just don't think it's relevant. It's been as cheap as 99 cents. But I think we have to skip it. I think we just have to hold some of these categories like horror games in which there's just a lot of competition to a higher standard. You have Awoken Chapter 1 of the Reverie, which has no reviews. Same thing. Early access, September 4th, 2020. Is there some reason why I specifically put this on the follow list? I can't see it between the dark screenshots, so let's just remove that. Here we have a game called Ayre, A-Y-R-E, which looks like a dragon riding game with 7 user reviews. It's a shame, I wanted this to succeed. But should I give it another year to get no reviews? I think the answer to that's no. Yep. Some games just don't succeed even if they had a chance to. If only the world was fair in a lot of ways, but Steam in the video game store is definitely not. You have a game called Azalea, which just kind of looks like a RPG game. Short, cute puzzle action adventure through the tense and dangerous forbidden forest for $1.49. I feel like this low price probably convinced me to put it on the fall list, but in retrospect, no, I don't think there's anything worth looking at there. And so that leaves us with Bs. And so that puts me in a good position at least to stop doing the wishlist cleanup. And we'll talk about any new news. I'm not even going to check it a third time to see if any new news came out. And I'll have to play the arena off screen, which I've been doing that, and I've been wasting a lot of time. Alright, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching.